Hey, what's up? This is Art Class here. What is the worst trend in 2022? Is it New Balance? Is it bloke core? Is it really sporty sunglasses? There's a lot of new and upcoming stuff in fashion for sure, and you probably don't need me to tell you that short form videos certainly do be pretty popular right now. If you're into clothes, you probably find a lot of information through short vertical videos of different things that people recommend or outfits that people are wearing. And one week to the next, the content of those can change quite a lot as creators hop from one look to another, and algorithms desperately try and show people new stuff in an attempt to make my shriveled brain release that little bit more dopamine. At the same time, we have retailers like Shein who have mastered the ability to create inspired, shall we say, clothing from trending pieces extremely quickly, rolling that out and making it available to a mass market at an extremely low price. That's partly the reason why everyone's favourite word over the last year or so has been the micro trend. I know that sounds like the lamest, most journalist-friendly word ever, so if you're hearing the word microtrend and rolling your eyes, then yes, that is the correct response. And it means exactly as you might imagine, very short-lived trends which are designed to rise and fall extremely quickly, maybe overlapping with each other, and some of which are not necessarily fully fledged aesthetics or trends in themselves, but just relating to very specific pieces or looks. It's actually not a new term at all, and culturally, microtrends have existed for a very long time, but this new advent of short-form video content and the way that we consume stuff, and fashion content especially, has really brought this idea back to the forefront. One week it feels like you're seeing loads of recommendations for one particular pair of shoes or look or whatever, the next it's something totally different. And the more of that sort of content you see, the more you end up feeling like, damn, I must not be very fashionable at all because I'm like 8 trends behind at this point. This is a great opportunity for fashion intellectuals to say, just forget about the trends, just worry about your own style and, whatever you like, just wear whatever you like. And that's not necessarily bad advice, but it's reasonable to assume that people who are into fashion want to engage with it in some way, unless you're just going to go early 20th century swag to really flex on them. But what's the point buying into anything fashionable when it feels like 2 weeks later it's going to drop off social media, no one's going to be talking about it, and it's going to feel pretty unfashionable again? Is this the worst thing to happen to fashion, or is there an opportunity here? Let's talk about it. One of the obvious problems with micro-trend culture is how quickly all of these things show up and blow up. Algorithms are doing a very good job of finding new things to show us, and as soon as we get that one little piece of content that's a bit new or a bit different or a bit interesting, there's a bit of an arms race for more people to do the same thing, to really capitalize on that new and interesting stuff. That photo collage editing style, for example, went from 0 to I still see it when I close my eyes in the space of a couple of weeks, and the same happens with physical products. It only takes one piece of content to really blow up where someone is showing off something new, and immediately you'll see loads of people rushing out to present this new thing to their own audiences. Alongside this, the common approach is to talk in very superlative terms to make things interesting, capture attention, and make that content feel very essential. So the language inevitably becomes, these are things you need, here are things you can buy right now. Social media's problem, I think, used to be that it was overly aspirational. People would present these amazing lives that no ordinary person could ever hope to aspire to. Now I think the problem has gone from aspirational to transactional. Before, it was, hey, look at this life, you could never hope to do what I can do, you can just look at it. But now it's, you can get a piece of my life, you can copy my existence, and all you need to do is buy this thing. Of course, those different lives you see, those trends you're subjected to, they roll around pretty fast, so there's always something new to experience or a new person to take a recommendation from. And seeing all that stuff, all this new content from these new people again and again and again, all of which have their new recommendations, which change very quickly, inevitably pressures people into hyperconsumption. The more you follow fashion online, the more you're exposed to this zeitgeist, the idea that buying all this stuff very regularly and fitting in or engaging with all of these different trends is what you should be doing when it comes to fashion. The more you're able to do that, the higher you're riding on all these little micro trend waves, and thus the more into fashion you are. It makes sense, right? The more involvement in trends, the more fashionable. But I'm going to hit you with a hot take. You don't need to consume fashion products in order to participate in fashion. Maybe this sounds stupid, right? Being a fashion fan surely is all about having a massive wardrobe of things, especially for social media. You've got to come out with those fresh fits all the time, you're going to need those new kicks for the 5-minute trip down to the shops, and making sure you're buying into the newest season or the newest trend so that you can have a viewpoint or some experience with it. But I kind of Couldn't disagree more. The less you buy, the more discerning you're being about which trends or styles appeal the most to you, and the more time you have to learn about different aesthetics or designers or movements. And you'll probably gain a better ability to discern the interesting, the unique, the creative work versus the derivative or the simulacra, the imitation which might blow up online. This is not a crazy new concept. The idea of buying into elements of trends or looks which appeal to you, or engaging with different trends in a way that appeals to you the most or really speaks to you, has been around forever, and essentially it's the slightly higher IQ version of just wear whatever you want. But it is at odds with the highly transactional language of microtrends, so it feels harder to engage with fashion in this way when so much of what we see is linked to what you can buy, how you can get a particular look, or the stuff that you need. In essence, and this is my I am very smart part of the video, consumption rather than knowledge is sold to us as the antidote to our fashion problems. Damn bro, that's so deep. Oh, I'm reconsidering my whole life right now. Put it on a t-shirt and I'll buy it. The more time I've spent in niche fashion communities, the more I've seen people enter with this, I've just found out about X, what can I buy, where's the best shop, and never, where can I learn about this stuff, where are the best resources. And I think that's definitely something that needs reframing. You don't need to speedrun fashion and start backwards long jumping up Dover Street Market stairs. Drawing on my own experience, I can't count the number of times that people have said, oh, I've just found out about techwear, where can I go buy some stuff? As if that is step one for being involved in the techwear community, like there's a bouncer at the door. It's me. I'm the bouncer. But that should almost be the last step to enjoying a particular fashion genre or trend, because there's so much content out there to enjoy about all of these different things. Wow, look at all these great videos. Different inspiration to gain and context about what makes different brands unique or interesting or worth pursuing in some way. Looking at all of... Well, that's staying off for the rest of the video. Doing that and learning all of those things and understanding what resonates with you doesn't make you a fake fan of something. Quite the opposite. Microtrends, I think, increase the pressure to just buy stuff without doing any of those other things because, frankly, it takes time and it takes understanding. And there's a real risk of just missing out if you try and do all that stuff without just buying it as soon as you see it. And being involved in fashion now is so linked to creating content around it. People like doing the Instagram pickups, the TikTok video hauls, the outfit diary stuff, because that's a great way of sharing content with other people and communicating with others that are interested in fashion. But what if you don't buy the top 5 shoes that you totally need this season, and then everyone else has the shoes and you don't, and then Brandon calls you a nerd in math class again? Seriously though, I find myself shaking my head when I see people spending hundreds of dollars on their techwear costumes from a suspicious retailer, like buying 5 or 6 items at once, only to find that it doesn't quite look as good or feel as good as it did on the TikTok content designed to sell it. My brother in Christ, you could have learned that for free. I think another problem conceptually with the microtrend is it can be difficult to get context about stuff. We're exposed to a lot of images and video and things, but not always the background behind them or what makes them interesting. I think the recent JOUND and ASICS collaboration is a fantastic example of this. They popped up on a load of different bits of content of cool or hyped shoes that you could totally pick up. They were teased a lot before they dropped. I'm sure they're going to have their 5 minutes now post-release and then they'll kind of fade away. All we see is, this is the hot shoe right now, JOUND, that's an interesting brand, you should probably get involved with them, you should pick this thing up. But JOUND as a brand is kind of predicated around the opposite of this whole cycle, the idea of timeless style, things that you will want to pick up that deviate from the trend cycle, that are designed to last a long time and be wearable for many seasons. They were meant to destroy the microtrend cycle, not join it. When we only see them for like 1 second at a time in little bits of short form content, they get reduced to the same kind of level as all the other hyped or big releases that happen to be coming out at a similar time. We have to go above and beyond to find out any stories or context about these different brands and releases. But if we did, then maybe we would find those real reasons to be interested in these kinds of releases. One other thing I'd like to mention, when trends are microed, I think there's a real need to codify them extremely quickly and to break them down into genre names so that they can easily be communicated in these short form bits of video. We need to be able to explain the key part of a trend in 1 minute or less, and there's this sense that you need to get this kind of uniform or these very particular items. You know, you need the ALD hat, the Bodhi shirt, the ALD pants, the New Balance 550s. You've got to get that become a set bonus, and I think when things are described in these terms so frequently, it makes people feel like, well, this is the way you engage in the trend. You need this checklist of items, or you need this very particular thing, and you can't deviate from that. It means your style or what you're wearing can end up feeling like a sort of costume, and this is something we've talked about from a techwear perspective quite a lot, but I think it's true of other genres too. The less people's clothing feels like a cohesive wardrobe and more like a series of different outfits which conform to different styles or trends, the less flexibility you're going to have, the more you're going to feel like, oh, I have nothing to wear, and the more susceptible you are to when these different trends move out of favor or you stop being interested in them, well, you're wiping out huge sections of your wardrobe in one go. That's a lot of dunking on micro trends, and I think it is pretty easy to do the whole social media bad thing, but I think if you're interested in fashion, there are some aspects of the micro trend culture that we can benefit from. As a reminder, micro trends are not new. It's been a very long time since culturally we've had one long trend from another with no kind of overlap or other interesting stuff happening. The internet, long before the short form video boom, has really allowed that to happen. But let's return to the current state of things. What do we have to gain from the landscape of micro trends right now? First and foremost, this new shape of trends gives exposure to a huge number of different styles. Everything gets its time in the sun. This means there are more chances for discerning people to find something that they like or that they're interested in and use that as a jumping off point to discover a bit more about a particular style or an aesthetic. Just because things drop off the flavor of the month algorithm doesn't necessarily mean that they immediately become uncool. If they feel authentic to you, taking the time to explore that more, dive a little bit deeper, is going to be way more interesting for you and the people you interact with. I think it's really cool to see people who are true to those niche styles or designers really get their chance to have some exposure and have their time in the sun. You've got accounts like Constant Practice who showcase all this different archival, really interesting stuff from the early 2000s. The nature of what they do means that those bits of content just have that chance to blow up and really capture people's attention and show loads of people a really interesting piece of clothing that otherwise might have gone totally undiscovered. I also think exposure to multiple trends at once can help democratize fashion to some extent. You know, there's not so much this one bag that everyone has to own this summer anymore, but there's loads of different viable options. And yes, designer items can be very quickly reproduced by fast fashion or real-time fashion retailers. And admittedly, that does often devolve into, hey, you can buy this very cheap version of a thing right now. It has its own whole list of problems. That's something we could cover in a totally different video. But at the very least, it does make particular trending things very accessible at very cheap prices. If you like a thing or a trend, there's probably an affordable alternative that's going to give you a bit of that experience. Along those lines, these very spiky algorithms give small businesses and new creators a real chance to shine. I've seen multiple occasions of startup brands that come in with a fresh or a different idea, even if they're only making like one or two products, they have a chance to really blow up and to show a large audience what they can do and get a big fan base behind them quite quickly without having to be a established brand or have loads of marketing money. It's just about that one interesting idea. And the nature of micro trends, there's always a hunt for something new. It really enables that kind of thing to happen, I think. Because all of these things overlap, they have lots of relationships with other trends, there's a real potential for creativity while still working within that fashion zeitgeist. We're not talking 2015 hypebeast era anymore, where one particular look is cool and the other stuff is kind of less cool. Loads of different things are viable and you can kind of mix and match things a little bit. Stussy very much in resurgence right now, but at the same time people are still exploring the outdoor fashion and the more modern technical performance stuff. Those things are pretty different, but I've seen people combine the two really well, and that's just one example of potentially hundreds. Trying to catch them all, of course, is a fool's errand. I mean, you can't even catch them all in modern Pokemon games, but you have choices for fashionable aesthetics and making them your own. They are more numerous, but I think less prescriptive as a result. Worth mentioning too that although there is a lot of buy this, consume that type content, there's also a lot of stuff people showing their unique skills and creative potential. I've seen some really interesting accounts of people taking a DIY approach to fashion and reinvigorating old things, making new garments totally from scratch, and exploring fashion from that perspective of creation rather than just consumption. That kind of content, especially when it blows up and gets really popular, I think has the ability to empower people to try stuff like that for themselves. People can see just how easy something like that can be, especially when it's broken down and shown to them in this nice little quippy short form video. Customizing, recycling, DIYing, all of that stuff makes a more authentic and a more interesting and a more fun product. than just buying something off the shelves. Ultimately, the fast cycle of microtrends is not good or bad, it just kind of is. If you're in the mindset that fashion as a hobby is about the consumption of fashion products, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to constantly feel like you're behind the curve. There's going to be a real pressure to keep buying new things over and over. And let's face it, you're probably never going to buy anything good because of the need to consume things so regularly. You won't have time to really invest in any one thing in particular, opting for the Shein imitation every time over the original. But if you consider fashion as a hobby to be about self-expression, about learning about cool garments or designers, or appreciating different aesthetics, then microtrends represent a real opportunity to show us a lot of stuff that maybe in previous years we haven't had as easy access to. That's all information that you can use to engage with fashion in the way that you want, not just in the prescriptive 5 things that you need to buy now type way. To give you a personal example, there was a recent trend of people picking up these open collar shirts, maybe kind of wide, kind of boxy, brands like Bodhi, Story Manufacturing, Horego, stuff like that. I actually really liked all of these kinds of shirts, but the style that they present is obviously pretty different to what I would normally wear. There was loads of examples of them fitting into the Bodhi, ALD, New Balance 550 kind of trend. And as I say, I like that stuff, but I'm not going to go out there and totally redesign my look just for a couple of TikTok likes. I also feel like it doesn't quite resonate with me personally. I'm a little bit tall to do Bruno Mars cosplay, but I did come across this Stone Island Shadow Project shirt, which kind of has some of the same interesting things about it. It's got that open collar design, it's got this super crazy pattern all over it, it's kind of wide, it's kind of boxy fitting, but at the same time has these elements that appeal to me a little bit more. It has this kind of geometric, slightly futuristic inspiration with the patterning. It's got hidden pockets as well. You know how much we love the technical functionality, and that heavyweight linen construction really appealed to me as well. It was a little bit different to other kinds of materials that I'd handled before. Just felt kind of nice and interesting. So microtrends encouraged me to try something new that maybe I wouldn't have done before, but still managing to relate that to my own style and pick up something that I felt was of interest to me. And that was the only item of clothing that I bought that month. So I didn't need to do some massive haul, totally get a new outfit so that I could wear it. It was just something that fit into what I was already doing. And I can do that long after this shirt is the hottest thing that you need this summer. What's your view on the current fashion landscape though? I'd love to hear if you've been impacted by this new trend and the way that things seem to be in fashion now with lots of different overlapping trends and styles. Maybe you've used it as an opportunity to find something new that you haven't before, in which case I'd love to hear about it. Or hopefully you haven't ended up buying into all of these different styles and kind of feeling a little bit pressured to try all this new stuff and just buy things without really kind of understanding why you want them. Hope you enjoyed the video, a little bit of a high IQ think piece kind of thing. Yeah, would love to hear if you enjoy this kind of content, you want to see a little bit more of this stuff. I've seen a few videos like this recently that I thought were quite interesting, so I wanted to put a bit of a take on this kind of world of fashion type stuff rather than just doing product review after product review. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Really hope you enjoyed it. Again, please give it a like if you did, and as always, I will catch you very soon with another video.